Welcome to the 8th virtual UNISEC Global Meeting. This meeting will last exactly 2 hours. We will begin with opening remarks from Professor Nakasuka of Tokyo University. You have the floor, please, go ahead.
Yes, okay. Yeah, can you say this?
Yes.
Okay. So, good morning, good evening, hello, everyone. My name is Shinichi Nakasuka. I'd like to make a very brief opening remarks for the 8th UNISEC Global Virtual Meeting. So, as I said many times, so we have been developing a several satellite like this, and occasionally we are thinking, what is satellite development and what you can learn through it? And tonight, let's look at satellite development as a problem-solving activity. Okay. And maybe, as you know, in the satellite development, we have a design chart. Then if we have a design chart, we can analyze and simulate the functions. So this direction is called forward reasoning. But satellite development is maybe the inverse, different direction. So we first define the functions, and then we should make a design chart. That is a design task. And this kind of the direction is called the inverse reasoning. And this kind of the task occurs in many areas in the everyday life. For example, from causes, we can predict the symptoms. This is the forward reasoning, but we should diagnose the causes of the symptom. And also from a measures or plan, and we can simulate the result and effect. But the important thing is that we should plan a measure or plan from a result or effect which we want to realize. So this kind of the, from wants to how to realize direction is called the inverse reasoning. But students usually have learned math, physics, electronics, structural dynamics, and so on in schools or universities, which are all lectures on forward reasoning. So they didn't have much, opportunity to learn of this kind of the inverse reasoning. That is a problem solving. Importance, problem solving training is very, very important because life is full of problem solving. And for most of the problems, there are no answers yet. And most of them cannot be solved by knowledge and skills in a single area. And setting a goal by yourself is also very important. And I think this kind of problem solving can be very effectively trained in the satellite or CANSAT development because this provides excellent opportunity, like no correct answers exist before, and it cannot be developed by single technological area. It should integrate many, many technological areas. And you can set your own goals for your project. But in order for this kind of the satellite CANSAT development be very effective tool for the training, what is a very important thing? Yes, you can get good training only when you have a very strong desire to solve the problem. So this strong desire to solve the problem is very, very important in order for this kind of the training be very effective. And the satellite or CANSAT development provides us with this kind of the motivation. That's why satellite or CANSAT development is very important. So let me show you some example of this problem solving. So as I said before, that we have been, having this kind of the CANSAT ALICE events since 1999. And we organize the comeback competition every year. The CANSAT released from the rocket at the altitude of 4 kilometers should autonomously go back to the target point without human intervention. And the flying back type of the CANSAT or walking back rover type of the CANSAT appeared up till now. So in 2017, one of our team, University of Tokyo team, reached 1.34 meter to the target by GPS navigation after the distance from about maybe 2 or 3 kilometers away. And as you know, the GPS navigation accuracy is something like a 3 to 5 meters. So they cannot come closer to the target. So they changed to the camera navigation to reach the target. But maybe as you see, because of coming sunlight, its camera could not recognize the target and gave up after some waiting time. So this was their first trial. But fortunately, they still have one more chance in 2 days. So they modify the strategy and change the software. And they did on-site tests many times to check the new software and realize 0 meter to the target in the second run. I think this is really a very, very good problem solving training. And the important thing is that they have a very strong motivation. We want to win the competition. That motivation is very, very important. So now we have full of difficult problems like a global warming, energy crisis, food deficiency, and many, many other type of the programs exist. And they are mutually related. So we need to have a very good skill to problem solving of these programs. So problem solving gets even more difficult and should take more factors into account because many factors are mutually related. But you don't have to solve the programs alone. Find out persons who have the required skills, knowledge, human network, facility, money, and in that sense, UNICEF Global Network may be used. You can set your targets, which are worth pursuing while feasible. And you should have strong desire to solve the problem, as I said before, and propagate this of your enthusiasm and will to the team members. And these tasks and mind can be trained in satellite and CANSAT development. So that's why we are teaching the student about the satellite development, because we want them to have a very good training for the general problem solving. So this is my tonight message. Thank you very much.
Okay, Professor Nakasuka, thank you for the opening remarks. Before I introduce the next speaker, the main presentation for tonight, Nate, can you briefly explain how Breakout is going to run today? Nate, are you there? Okay, if not, I will go ahead to the main presentation. So the main presenter today is Jorge Del Rio Vera. He is a telecommunication engineer who has a PhD in Earth observation. So now he is with the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, UNUSA. And the title of his presentation is Access to Space for All. So Jorge, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you, George. Let me try to share my screen, and hopefully you can see the slides. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so good night, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here. I mean, when I was invited by Rei Kawashima, I didn't think it twice. It's really a pleasure to be here with UNISEC. I mean, it's a community that I really like a lot and enjoyed a lot before the pandemic, because I attended one of the meetings, but also now. So thank you very much for the invitation. So the presentation of today is called Access to Space for All, and that takes the name of a program that is run by the Office for Outer Space, the United Nations Office for Outer Space. Some of you may not know what the Office for Outer Space Affairs is and why in United Nations there is an Office for Outer Space Affairs. Well, actually the office is quite old. I mean, it almost comes back to the times of Sputnik, where countries decided that, I mean, space was an important topic and they had to discuss. So United Nations is basically the home for diplomacy, and inside United Nations, UNUSA is the home for space and for space diplomacy. It's the only United Nations entity that is fully dedicated to space affairs. And we work with governments, space agencies, private entities, civil society, other UN entities. So we are kind of a gateway, convener of space messages, space technology, space law, and applications. And that's basically what we are doing in the office. We also are the secretariat of the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, which is where member states meet and debate about peaceful uses of outer space. The committee is meeting this year at the end of the summer, but next week there will be a meeting of the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee that is reporting to the committee. So it's very exciting times, and there will be a meeting next week. So before I start diving into access to space, as I said, it's a program of the office. I want to start with questions, and I'm going to try to be provocative today. First question, and I have that question for all the audience. I mean, there are a lot of things that are important, and Professor Nakasuka was mentioning climate change and food problems, and is outer space that important compared to those? Is it important? And that's a question that we are getting a lot in the office. And I'm sure if you are working in the space field, it's something that you are also getting a lot. Why to spend money in space? Space is very expensive. Why to launch those things that are going to outer space? Is a lot of money going to outer space. And there is a lot of misunderstandings about space. So I'm going to try to debunk some of them, and I'm going to try to align that discussion of the importance of outer space today. And to try to solve that problem, or to try to put emphasis on the relevant space, I'm going to go to a complete different field. I mean, I'm an engineer, but this image that you have in the slide is coming from psychology. It comes from Maslow, who was a psychologist that was living on the first half of the last century, and he was making work on the needs and the motivation of people. And one of the very famous results that he got is the Maslow pyramid, or the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And it basically says which are the things that we humans deem important. What do we need? And there at the bottom of the pyramid, you have physiological needs, which is basically we need to breathe, we need to drink water, we need to eat, otherwise we basically disappear. And that's basic needs. We need that no matter what. If we are missing that, that's what we are looking for desperately. When we have those needs covered, we go to the next level of the pyramid. And what we need is safety. We need to feel safe and secure. If not, there is a lot of stress and everything else doesn't count. So once we have physiological needs covered, we are looking for being safe and feeling safe. Otherwise, if we don't have that, that's what we are looking for. Once we have that covered, so more or less we feel safe, we feel our physiological needs covered, what we need is to feel that we are belonging to a group. I mean, humans are social animals. So we need that feeling of being loved and belong to a community. If you go to the next level, is esteem. I mean, we need to be recognized, and we like to be recognized. And if you go to the next level, what you are needing, or what you are looking for, is to become your best self. And those are the things that we are looking for. I mean, you're not talking about the space, not talking about anything else. This is what we are looking for. How does this correlate with the space? Well, I don't know if you heard about this, but these are the Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals is an agenda that was put forward by the United Nations member states. And these are the goals that we all, humanity, all the countries, have to achieve by 2030. And if you are looking at that, I'm sorry that the resolution is not very good, but Sustainable Development Goal number 1 or number 2, for instance, is zero hunger. So it corresponds to the lower level of the pyramid. Sustainable Development Goal number 6, clean water and sanitation. We need water to drink. So we are talking about the lower levels of the pyramid. But also you are moving higher in the pyramid. For instance, when we are talking about peace and justice, Sustainable Development Goal number 16, that's about the need of safety. And if you look closely at these Sustainable Development Goals, you will see that the Maslow pyramid is very well represented by what you have there. So what countries want is basically what we all want, which is covering those needs that are in the Maslow pyramid. And how will space contribute to covering those needs? Well, the Sustainable Development Goals, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, is an agenda that underneath the goals, because the goals are very high level. I mean, no poverty may mean many different things depending on the country where you are. Zero hunger may mean different things depending on the country where you are. So to actually measure that and to quantify and actually give a meaning to those Sustainable Development Goals, there are targets. And below those targets, there are indicators. There are 169 targets, 232 indicators. So if we are looking at space, nearly 40% of those targets can benefit from space technologies, data, services, and applications. So now you see, I mean, thanks to the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, you see the important role that space can play in our lives. Because almost half of the agenda, I mean, nearly 40% of the agenda can be supported by space technologies. And actually, modern societies are not possible without space technology, data, and applications. There you have an image, a small graph, that is the evolution of the population, which is the blue line, and then the evolution of the agricultural land. You see jumps because of the way it was reported and the number of countries that were reported. And I mean, new countries were added, so that's why you see the jump. But if you're looking at the trend of the last 20 years, 25 years, you see that the agricultural land stays more or less the same or even decreases. And space can play a role on making the land more productive, for instance, through intelligent farming or precision farming. When I mentioned this 40% of the targets being covered by space, I was referring only to technology, to two technologies, because we did a study in the office, and what we took was the Copernicus system, which is the European Earth observation system, and the European global navigation satellite systems, which is basically EGNOS and Galileo. And those are the two systems that we took into account to make the analysis. If you include other technologies, satellite telecommunications, human space flight, that number increases. So space is actually even more important than that 40%. You can download the report if you want to have a look at the analysis that was done. So now you have this question of, is outer space important? Now you can start feeling a little bit the importance of outer space, how space is contributing to all what we are looking for. But the other question that you have is, or the other comment that you typically have is, outer space is very expensive. I mean, there is no point in spending in outer space when blah, blah, blah. And whoever you are talking to is putting an example there. And of course, there are very important things. But I think that the COVID pandemic has demonstrated the importance of science. And Professor Nakasuka before was talking about the very, very important skills, which are problem-solving skills that are developed, for instance, when you are trying to solve a space problem. And not only, space is a source of inspiration. I mean, if you are telling a small boy, hey, let's play astronauts, you see that there is a lot of excitement. Let's play, I don't know, something else. It might be a little bit less excitement. So generally, there is a lot of fascination about the space, and in some cases it grow up a lot. So it can be thought expensive, and we will see in a minute that it's not. But also the benefits that it's bringing to society are huge. So you have to put that in perspective. You cannot say, okay, this is expensive. With respect to what and which are the benefits that you are getting. So let's make a small test. Space is expensive, right? Okay. Let's compare the price of the Mangalyaan mission. That was a mission that was sent to Mars by India, versus the cost of the movie The Martian. What do you think was more expensive? Okay, I leave the question for you. Next question, the price of a big commercial airplane. Okay, take one of the big ones. Right, I'm not going to say any brand, but take one big plane, these that are doing transoceanic flights. And the Chandrayaan-2. That Chandrayaan-2, it's an Indian mission, and it's an Indian mission that went to the moon, and it had an orbiter and a lander. Unfortunately, the lander crashed, but technology was there. And the orbiter was working perfectly. I mean, it made the 400,000 kilometers to the moon. What do you think is more expensive? A plane or a ticket to the moon? To do a lot of science, by the way. Next question. What is what do you think is more expensive? The price of an amateur weather satellite receiving station, a very amateur one, nothing fancy, but something that you can use to receive satellite images directly from the satellites, or the cost of Cinema for Two in Tokyo. I was looking at the price for Cinema for Two in Tokyo, and that resulted in like $30. Probably if you're including popcorn, it's a little bit more expensive. So what do you think is more expensive of all those things? Well, when you're comparing a mission to Mars versus doing a movie about Mars, actually the mission to Mars is cheaper. The movie was more expensive. And I'm not by any means saying that the movie had no value. I mean, the movie has inspired a lot of people to follow engineering career. I mean, that movie has a lot of value. But when you are comparing to actually going to Mars versus doing a movie on Mars, going to Mars can be cheaper. And not only cheaper by a bit, cheaper by more than $30 million. About the plane and the Chandrayaan. Well, the plane is costing about 150, and depending on the plane you're looking for. And the Chandrayaan, it's a little bit tighter, but it's cheaper. So going to the moon, sending a probe to the moon, an orbiter and a lander is cheaper than buying a plane, a big plane. What about the cinema? Well, the cinema is cheaper. Actually, you can go to see the movie The Martian, and for cheaper money that buying an amateur weather satellite receiving station. But it's not that expensive either, considering that you are getting data from a satellite that is a few hundred kilometers away, orbiting the Earth. Actually, that's the amateur receiving station I was talking to, and in that particular case is an SDR, a software-defined radio, together with a computer and a very basic antenna, and you can download images like the one that is above. That was in my backyard, and you can replace the notebook or the netbook by a Raspberry Pi, and it's around the price that I said. Moreover, I mean, it's cheap. So we have seen that it's not costing that much compared to other things, but the benefits of space, the cost-saving benefits of space are huge. The small picture that you have on the right is showing the cost benefit of space applied to agriculture in Canada. This is coming from a presentation that was done by the Canadian delegation in the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee in 2019, the one that is meeting next week, by the way. And they estimated that cost savings for space technology benefits in agriculture will be $800 million. Exporting biofuel, because of the way you are doing the monitoring of biofuel production, in Canada, it's amounting for an increase of 200 million, between 100 and 200 millions annually, and so on. So you see that it's not that expensive. The benefits that you're bringing are huge. If you have satellites out there, for instance, used for precision farming, that basically you're using GNSS and Earth observation. So I think that, I hope that I have convinced you that space is not that expensive. The other thing is that you normally get is space is only for a few countries. Those countries that have the well-established space programs are the ones interested in space. Not true. The members of the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space currently are 95. It's a committee that is increasing the membership a lot. And you see that there are all types of countries. You have countries that have well-established space programs, but you have other countries that don't. That some of those countries don't have a space agency even, but they are benefiting from space. And you can get the benefit from space even though you don't have a space agency. You can use Earth observation data, or you can use satellite navigation to actually save money in the fleet of vehicles or ships. So it's not for a few countries. Actually, it's very interesting for almost all the countries in the world. All of the countries are using space in a way or the other, and 95 countries are debating about the space in COPOS, in the Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space. So no, it's not only for a few countries. And let's dive a little bit more in the work of the office. I want to start up with a very easy question. What if a country would become spacefaring? Okay, a country decides to establish a space program, becomes actually spacefaring, for example, launching satellites without a national space law and policy, without an economic analysis, or without the lack of a technology roadmap or trained personnel. Those are the type of questions and the type of support that we are giving in the office to countries. We are giving support in international and creating national space law and policy. We are giving support in making the cost-benefit analysis of implementing a space program, or we are helping to build a technological roadmap or have personnel trained. I'm going to focus on the last bit of the question, the technological roadmap and the training. And that's because we have a program, and that's a program I'm working most, that is called Access to Space for All. And what we are doing in that program is to provide research and orbital opportunities for UN member states. And actually it's technological development. And what we are providing in that program together with our partners, we cannot do this program without the partners. And you see the list of partners there, is to provide access to facilities and infrastructure that otherwise for some countries will be difficult to access or to utilize. And that program has a lot of benefits, because even though we are trying to develop technological capabilities, the countries need to have in place some mechanisms to be compliant with international space law. For instance, notification to the register of object launched into outer space, not only when they are sending the object up, which is the typical notification that we are getting, but also when the satellite that they have put in orbit is re-entering. So we are actually working with the countries that are participating in Access to Space for All to develop also this, and to be responsible and develop responsible behavior and sustainable behavior when they are accessing space. Also, the experiments that can be conducted with the opportunities that are provided through Access to Space for All can be used to have a more responsible and sustainable behavior. The images that you have in black and white are the images that were taken of testing the deployment mechanism of sail, at the orbit sail, and that was tested on ground in a drop tower. And we have an agreement with that drop tower, which is operated by CERN, the Center for Applied Space Technology and Microgravity in Germany. And it offers around 9 seconds of microgravity in the catapult mode. And there you can actually test deployment mechanisms for the orbit sails that can later be used in orbit. So we are trying to promote that responsible and sustainable behavior, which is very important for space. Also, as Professor Nakasuka was mentioning before, this is the source of inspiration, and the impact that you have on a country of a program like this is huge. You are inspiring, you can inspire hundreds of engineers. I mean, in the case, for instance, the picture that you have in the middle, it's about Guatemala. In Guatemala, almost 100 students participating in the development of their CubeSat in one way or another. So imagine that workforce for a country like Guatemala, almost 100 engineers having some kind of training related to space. The small pictures that you have with a lot of people is for another team that is working also in developing a CubeSat. It's almost, in that picture, there are 85 people that were participating in the kickoff meeting of the CubeSat. And there are many more. I mean, you have their peer-reviewed journals, you have university departments created. There are many benefits of utilizing these opportunities that are provided through the Access to Space for All initiative. We are focusing mainly on education and infrastructure, as I mentioned before, but there are spills over other areas. And this is the way it looks like. These are opportunities that we are offering. We are currently offering the ones that are in yellow. And we have divided the program, the initiative, in 3 tracks. One is devoted to hypergravity and microgravity that aims at developing the capacity in a country to be able to run experiments in orbit, actually in orbit. And we have ground opportunities, we have in orbit opportunities, we are missing the thing that is in between, which is in red, which is suborbital and parabolic flights. We have also a satellite development track, and we have a strong cooperation with JAXA in that. We also had an opportunity with Avio, which is a private company. We have a mix of partners in this initiative. And that opportunity with JAXA is currently open, so people can apply. It's for a 1U CubeSat. And we also have an exploration track to start developing exploration-related skills in countries and the interest for exploration. So those opportunities are open. Have a look if you are interested in applying. Don't hesitate. Some of them are closing in about 15 days, so just have a look. You have the link in the slides, and you have a QR code there. When we are receiving proposals for Access to Space for All, what we are asking also is that the people that is replying to the opportunities are making the connection between their project and the Sustainable Development Goals. We don't just want to see a technological project. We want to see the connection and the benefits that that project is going to bring to Earth. Going back to what Professor Nakasuka was saying in the beginning, the skills and the problem-solving skills, they are very important. There in the upper row, there is the row of Sustainable Development Goal number 3, good health and well-being. You have, at the end of the row, you have a ventilator, a low-cost ventilator that was used in Bolivia to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. That ventilator, there was a team of engineers, and the team of engineers, part of that team of engineers were winners of one of the opportunities that we have, the drop tower opportunity. And with this, I'm not saying that the ventilator was built because of drop tower. What I'm saying is that the skills that you are developing thanks to space, or trying to develop your research project in space, can be applied to Earth and can be very valuable skills at certain moments. And this is a very good example of that. I mean, that team has been very active. They have done many things. They are now trying to put together a 3D printer extruder that only works in microgravity. They were also doing tests before about smart intelligent materials. And they have been involved in building this low-cost ventilator because they had the right skill sets. And that right skill set is transversal and can be applied to many other fields. And they got the inspirations from space. I'm going to jump this slide. I mean, this is a typical reply to one of the opportunities that we have. So you see that almost all the Sustainable Development Goals are covered by the proposals that we are receiving. And this is only one opportunity I'm talking about. I'm not talking about all the opportunities you have seen. And these are the countries, for instance, that apply to that particular opportunity. You see that there is global reach and there is global interest there. As I said before, we cannot do this without partnerships. Partners are very important for us. And we are very, very lucky to have those committed partners. I mean, it's really amazing. And we are working with QTech, Fusion Institute of Technology, also in a program that is kind of supporting access to space for all, because it's about scholarships for having a master's in satellite development, which is also very important and can be applied to the opportunities that we have in access to space for all. The reach of the initiative is very good. We have reached in the last couple of months almost 500,000 people just by the post of the initiative. I mean, we have not done 500,000 posts. We have done a few posts, and those were viewed by almost 500,000 people. It was catch also the initiative and opportunities of the initiative in the daily press briefing of the spokesperson of the Secretary General of the United Nations, and the initiative itself was mentioned in the report of the Secretary General on the work of the organization. So you can see the high profile that has space in diplomacy in the world of the United Nations today. And what about the future? I mean, probably you can imagine about many futures. If you are thinking about the future, I mean, I'm trying to think about the future all the time, in particular with regards to the initiative. But I can share a small story with you. When I was a kid, my parents, I mean, I love my parents. They are very loving parents. They wanted the best for me. So they decided that the best skill that I could get was to learn to use typewriters. And I'm not talking about the computers. I'm talking about typewriters. I mean, those very old things that only exist in museums today, that you type, you have to move the sheet of paper and you type again. And because they thought that that was a very important skill. Well, those machines don't exist today. No sight. When I'm thinking about the future, I cannot think in any future where space doesn't play a role. And that's why it's important to have these skills, to learn these skills from very, very young, because that's a guarantee to be connected to a future where space will be shining. And I'm sure that that will be the case, because even today, space is playing a very important role. And I can only imagine that that role will increase in the future. So if you are using social media, if you can use the hashtag when we are talking about the initiative, that the hashtag that is there, I mean, that will help us to get these opportunities to the people that can benefit from them. With that, thank you very much.
Okay, Jorge, thank you for the very fine presentation.
Thank you.
We have time for one question. Does someone want to ask a question? Anyone can ask a question right now.
Don't be shy. Take the opportunity if you want to ask.
This is a rare opportunity.
Well, yeah.
There is a question in chat.
Okay.
Jorge, can you look at chat?
Yes. Great presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Emeline. What is the requirement to be a partner? That's a very good question. So, I mean, we normally establish the partnership process going through a dialogue. We have to see that the goals that a potential partner will have are aligned with the goals that we have. And sometimes those conversations take quite a bit of time. And when we find a match, we want to arrive to a same destination. We work together to try to make that partnership happen. I can give flash news here. We are actually changing a little bit that approach. I mean, before it was bilateral dialogue, we were approached by partners. Now what we want to do is to open the process a little bit more and to make it a little bit easier for people is we are going to publish a call for interest. So those who want to become partner can apply to the call for interest, and in there we will specify which are the areas we are interested in developing. We are discussing constantly with member states to also understand their needs, because this program is done for the member states, for the countries. So those needs have to be incorporated, and they will be incorporated in this call for interest that I hope it will be open by the end of the summer.
Okay, thank you very much, Jorge, for the reply to the question. It's now 10:40. We're going to jump over to the breakout session. Nate, are you ready?
Yes. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much, George, for that presentation. That was really interesting to hear about the different tracks that are actually being offered as well.
Excuse me, photo session.
Yes, absolutely. I was just getting to that. So we'll do a quick photo session first, actually, if we can. So if everybody could please turn on their camera. And we'll do a group photograph before we move on to the breakout session activity. All right. How are we looking?
Ray always says, show your teeth.
Yes, smile means show your teeth. Okay. Okay, so are you ready? Show your teeth. Okay, smile, teeth. 1, 2, 3, teeth. Okay. Teeth. Okay. Okay, one more. Okay. Okay, show your teeth. Teeth. Okay. Hello. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay, so Nate, can you start?
So we'll go back to Nate. By the way, Nate is calling from Adelaide, Australia today.
I am indeed. Thank you very much. So today for the breakout session, thanks to George, we actually have something a little bit different for you. So we are posing you a mini scenario. The scenario is this: you are a team of coordinators for an international program that shall ensure that all countries access space. It's not an easy task, but we trust you. What we need to know is what are the steps that you would take to achieve this goal, and how much time do you think is realistic to achieve the goal? If the goal was reached, what would be the benefits and the drawbacks? Okay, so if I pop over here, you should be able to see my screen now. So the main things that you want to look at is defining the term of access to space, in access to space for all. What does that mean for your team? So what are the steps you'd take? Establishing an agency or having launch facilities, what's necessary? And then based on your definition, what time frame would you assign to it? And then finally, what are the implications of doing so if you do achieve access to space for all? And I've just put an example there. Nations may consider resources better spent elsewhere. So for those of you who are joining for the first time for the breakout sessions, we will be splitting you into groups momentarily. You will have approximately 25 minutes to discuss these topics, and I'll send these to you in the chat also, so you don't forget them. When you get into your room, please nominate a leader for the group and begin having a chat about these topics. After 25 minutes, we will reconvene, and then the leader for each room will be invited to share your discussion with the rest of the group. You'll have 1 minute to do so, and a timer will appear on the screen to remind you of the time you have remaining for sharing. All right, I hope that was straightforward. I'll just finish setting up the breakout rooms. Just bear with me one moment. And you should automatically be moved into them. If you're not, though, you should receive a pop-up message, and please move into the room as you can. All right, have fun with it. Looking forward to seeing your ideas. We'll see you shortly.
Yes, I can see the counter bouncing upward.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that activity. And we may as well just kick it off straight away with the sharing. So if I could ask the representative from room 1, which had Landon, Derek, Kawashima-san, Hasif, Dr. Regis-Khan and Nasia, if you could please share.
Please stick to 1 minute, and there's a timer for that purpose.
Derek.
Thank you, Ms. Kawashima. I was the leader for Team 1, and about what we define for access to space for all is to gain launch opportunity. And also the steps you take to achieve this was education for all was agreed on about space and its benefits. Then the time frame to achieve access to space for all, majority say 10 years, with emphasis on education about space and its benefits in institutions of higher learning. Then the third question, what are the implications of achieving access to space for all? Well, there is competition between the indigenous sectors like agriculture and education, and also funding for space for all. So but the main point was to increase awareness about space and its benefits and how it can support other primary indigenous sectors. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you very much. The awareness and education piece is always one which we need to work on. It's a continuous effort, I think. Group number 2, we had Mark, Chanato, Veselin, Thamo, George, and Rayan.
Derek, thank you for sticking to time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Group number 2. Okay, we might just move forward then to group number 3, and if group number 2, you can we'll come back to you after. So group number 3 was Quinton, Mel, Kentaro, Konghai, Timothy, and James.
So I will start explaining for group 3. So we quickly converge towards the point that access to space for us means access to the benefits of space through access to space data and the space infrastructure in general. And this raises the question of what can and should be shared, what kind of capabilities are essentially national capabilities, possibly because of security reasons, what can be shared, and also to what extent sharing is important to avoid crowding orbits more and more because there is already a useful infrastructure. And so can it be achieved, this sharing? We thought that the regional level was probably the most appropriate level because these are countries that would share similar challenges, that already know each other, have diplomatic relation, and can know how to collaborate and work together and avoid duplication, wasteful duplication. And of course, what is important is education, building human resources, and which also should be kind of improved at regional level, potentially with regional education centers for space. And I'm sorry, I have tons of other things to say, but I will stop. I'm over time. Thank you.
It's hard to try and summarize it in a minute, I know, but thank you very much. And that regional approach is a very interesting one. So if we can move on to group number 4, please. That was Lawrence, Thanzin, George, Emmeline, and Shinobu.
Hi, thank you. I think like the others, we also focused on education, growing the interest and capability in a country, a region, starting off from young students, educating them about space, astronomy, solar system, starting to get them interested in satellites and what satellites can do. And I think as we saw from Jorge's presentation, how inexpensive it is to get a little satellite station to demonstrate to students and help them grow their interest. Then programs like CANSATs can be very inexpensive and get that capability and interest at the high school level, which moves into universities, starting with CubeSats, and again, growing that capability over many years. And then educating the public and educating the government on the benefits of being involved in space, the economic returns and opportunities for companies, businesses in their country.
Good points there, Lawrence. Thank you very much. And group 5, please.
For us, we define access to space by when everyone has the privilege of accessing the data or the space facilities, and also you have access on having work on satellite industries, and even of course the education and the access to the knowledge itself. In terms of number 2, realistic timeline, we think it's 10 to 15 years, similar to how they discussed on the previous group. That's how we got the number. And then the positive implication is access to what we cannot do in Earth, like disaster monitoring, can even improve further, good progress in technology. Negative is we can use it in the wrong way, and of course, congestion and the space. That's all.
Thank you, John. And how did you arrive at your timeline? We've got a little bit of extra time. How did you arrive at 10 to 15 years?
Okay, we think that there's, due to the recent progress wherein 10 years ago, there was already 1/3 of the world was able to receive, have an access right now in the space. So we think that it's possible given the current technological progress breakthroughs we had. So.
Okay, and group number 6. Thanks, John, by the way. Group number 6, that was Makiko, Brian, Satoru, Hoda, and Kiko.
So, hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Group number 6, we the for the access to space, and then because each country has many problems. For example, the Philippines has a typhoon. There's a lot of typhoon, so it is important to do the Earth observation from the space, and then they can avoid the risk, and then they can prepare. So for that, it is important to do the education. So and we can introduce the space to everyone, and they can do the seminar also. So that's why education is very important. And then for that, and then we can see the
Makiko, I might just have to stop you there. Sorry,
okay,
because we've just gone a little bit over time. But thank you very much. And I think one of the focus points that you put there was making it regional specific, which is a very good point. And group 3, we're not going to let you get out of it. If you can please share what you discussed. That was with Quinton, Mel, Kintaro, Kunghan, Timothy, and James. Do we have a representative from group 3?
Quinton already spoke.
Oh, he did, didn't he? Oh. Who
I
did
guess
miss?
it's
group 2.
I think it's group 2.
Ah, Kunghan, yes. It was. Okay, yes. Thank you, Kunghan. Mark, Shanatai, Veselin, Thema, George, and Rayan. Okay. If we don't have a representative from group 2, George, do we have time to actually ask George for his perspective on this?
Sure, if group 2 is not speaking.
There. Yeah, George, do you mind just sharing your perspectives or the UN perspective on these questions?
It's Veselin from group 2. It seems there was a problem, so we could not actually talk. At least myself, I could not hear anyone in the group. So I don't know, maybe this is the reason why nobody is responding.
Oh, I see. All right. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I think perhaps if we just ask George maybe for his comments, it might be better then, unless we have somebody from group 2 that is ready to be able to speak. I've just checked the settings, and you should be able to all unmute yourself.
How many groups do we have left?
That's it. We've done them all. We had 6.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jorge, do you have any wrap-up comments?
I mean, it was really interesting, the discussion, and to hear what the group said. For me, was interesting also not to hear space law and space policy in the countries. I mean, the development of space law and policy. It's just, I mean, it was interesting not to hear that. I guess that the group is more focused on engineering and education here. We have a concept. I mean, it's kind of now is worldwide concept that is called space divide, which is basically the gap that exists between countries that have space capabilities and those that don't have those space capabilities. And with regards to that questions, we also define access to space and space capabilities in a very broad term. It's not just access to orbit, but it's also access to data, being able to process the data, being able to put together a space policy. So all these aspects related to space. In terms of time frame, no idea. That's a very good question, and I honestly wouldn't take the crystal ball and try to make a guess, because that's very difficult to predict. But it's true that things are accelerating, it has been said before. And concerning the implications, I think the implications are. It depends how it is done. And what we are trying to do in the office is to build responsible and sustainable behavior. But it's true that if this responsible and sustainable behavior is not promoted, there are risks. And there are risks that will be paid by the whole world. But I see that the benefits are, because there are discussions on long-term sustainability, I think that the benefits are outweighing the possible negative consequences, because, as I said, there are discussions that are trying to prevent those negative consequences.
Okay, Jorge, thank you for the UN perspective. We're going to proceed to regional report from UNISEC Japan.
And Mark has just messaged me as well to say that he'll put, he's written down the questions. So I'll just ask Mark if he can write them in the chat, so that if you're interested, you can read those. But thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you, Nate, for conducting the breakout discussion. So next is regional report. The speaker for UNISEC Japan is Professor Mengu Cho, Kyushu Institute of Technology. Professor Cho, you have the floor.
Okay. Hi. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. This is Mengu Cho from Kyushu Institute of Technologies. On behalf of UNISEC Japan, I'll make you the region report. I'm the point of contact of UNISEC Japan and also the board member. Okay, so overview of UNISEC Japan. Of course, we are the first UNISEC local chapters founded in 2002. We now have 49 laboratory groups from 36 universities and more than 600 students. And recently, we have more and more corporate members. Now we have 19 corporate supporters. Yes, so it is very good. Especially financially. And one very good implications is the new board members. These three are the top of the board members in Japan, UNISEC Japan's president and 2 vice presidents. We have 10 or 15 more board members, but these 3 persons are top of the board, and they are all former UNISEC student, so new generations. Yes, they are younger, maybe 40, something like that. So it is very good. So I should soon change my role as a point of contact to those new people also. this is activity over 2020 fiscal years. We started from Takumi conference. It is an online conferences, and many activities were done remotely. Only 2 of these listed here: Noshiro Space event and this CANSAT campaign. These were done in persons, but everything else was done by remotely. Yes, so I think more or less the same in the rest of the world. So this is student activities. We had this Noshiro Space event. I think it was in August. Everybody was wearing a mask, but yes, we did those rocket and CANSAT. And also we did, because we couldn't do the ARIS, the US rocket campaigns, this time we did this, the CANSAT campaign. You can see in Mount Fuji here. So these were done in physically. But other things, almost everything was done remotely. This is one general assembly we usually do in July, but we had to do this remotely. But using that opportunities, we started new things. One example is this lessons learned sharing meeting. I think that's quite good. We shared lessons around from non-satellite development and operations. So 27 presentations by faculty members. They were very honest and very sincere disclosure of information and discussion in depth. So every time we had about 50 to 100 participants by Zooms. So it was a very good time, the good way of spending time during the, I think it started in April or May when we are in the lockdowns. Yes, so it continued until the mostly December. And based on that ones, we also did different non-flight mission assurance handbook. JAXA asked the UNIFEX to do study on investigate success failure case of domestic non-satellites and analyze success failure factors and also list up requirement for mission assurance of the non-satellite. And so we made a report more than 400 pages to JAXA. And eventually this will lead to a JAXA or UNIFEC non-satellite mission assurance handbooks. Although it will be written in Japanese, someday it will be written, translated into English, or I think nowadays it's very easy to machine translate to the to English. Space job fairs. This is a forum to connect students who want to work in the space sector and companies who want to recruit them. Actually, this is the second one. First one was in 2019, and of course it was done in person. But the second job fair was done remotely. But it was quite successful. We had 26 companies and 240 participants. And it is especially good to a student from non-Tokyo areas because they could join remotely. With the use of internet, we can overcome the barrier of distance. So some people are already talking about world space job fairs. I hope someday this will happen. Yes, based on the UNIFEC global activity. This is the company who participated in space job fairs. Not only just legacy space, but we offer quite a few new space companies. And also there are people, not just a student, but those who are working in already in a company, those who are former UNIFEC student, but those who are working in a non-space company, but want to work again for their space companies. Yes. So it's quite good. And we started this UNIFEC Academy. This is another usage of this pandemic era. So we do the online lectures on non-satellite development, operations, and utilizations. It's taught by the UNISEC faculty members. I showed some examples. And we teach about orbital mechanics, satellite operation, satellite structures, or all of those things. So target employees of new space companies. Actually, there are lots of new space companies. However, many of employees are coming from non-space sectors. And few got a formal education of space engineering. So they need just basic of this. Also, students studying at the non-space department may want to get this one. So far, all the lectures are done in Japanese, and this is a new revenue source for the UNISEC. So this is not free. We take, we collect the money for each participant. And Kibo Cube Academy, this year we worked with JAXA and UN USAs to promote Kibo Cube. And 6 online lectures were done by me, Professor Nakasuka, and Professor Kuwahara. This will be continuing for 2021, probably, I hope, yes. I think some of you also attended this the seminar series. So the conclusions, in 2020, many of UNISEC Japan activities were forced to do remotely, but using these opportunities, there are several new things born from these new situations, such as lessons learned sharings. And one good observation is the generational change is in progress in the UNISEC Japan board members. So many of our former UNISEC students are now leading UNISEC. Before finishing, I have one announcement. This may be interesting to you. UNISEC Japan signed a memorandum of understanding with JAXA on April 1st, 2021. It is about partnership on utilizations of CubeSat release from ISS Kibo for academic research and capacity building. And UNISEC and JAXA jointly work on Kibo Cube Academy, which we worked last year. And these new things, JCube. This is an inexpensive price for CubeSat release. It is not for free. It's different from Kibo Cube. Kibo Cube is free. But yes, and however, JCube is not free. However, it's very inexpensive. And we have 2 slots. One is international collaboration for capacity buildings. So collaboration between Japanese universities and foreign universities who seek foreign university or foreign entity who seek for the satellite for the capacity buildings or some sustainable space programs. And we also have the slot for domestic advanced missions. So JAXA opened some of the slots to the Japanese universities. It is up to 12 U per year. So each satellite is from 1 U to 3 U. So no 6 U. Okay. So up to 3 U and total is 12 U. So I cannot say more than these ones at this moment, but the details will be announced later this year, soon. Yes, yes. I can say only soon, but yes, we'll announce the detail later. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Professor Cho, thank you for the regional report. We have to move quickly to the next speaker, who is Quintin. He's a research at the Science, Technology, and Innovation Governance Program, STIG for short. So without further delay, Quintin, you have the floor.
Thank you, George. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank you, George and Ray, for inviting me to present the work I've been doing with my colleagues of the University of Tokyo on, so the title is Evaluating Japanese University-Led Space Technology Development and Utilization Capacity Building Program in Emerging Countries. A long title to say that we looked at how Japanese universities are supporting developing countries who want to start some form of space activity. And I have roughly 10 minutes here, so I will not be able to go precisely into the details. So I want to achieve two things. First, giving you an overview of the work we have done. And secondly, talk a bit about the background of the project, how it came into being, because it's an interesting public policy approach. So starting with this interesting public policy approach that I mentioned, this report was funded by an office of the Ministry of Education and Science of Japan called the MEXT. And this office is called Science for Redesigning Science, Technology and Innovation Policy. And they have established what they call the Kyoshinka project in Japanese, which means co-evolution project. Co-evolution as the biological evolution concept of two species evolving in a certain way based on their interactions. And their logic was that traditionally in Japan and in many governments, when some office, a functional office like the Space Policy Office, wants to get some information, some data, some research from a university, they will contract with the university, with the think tank, to get some report that will help their activities. But the CIREX office decided that instead, they would fund joint research between a functional office and a university. So the researchers are not providing a service to the government, but they are working with government. And so the university will develop its knowledge thanks to the funding. And at the same time, the government officials will contribute to the research itself. And the result of this project was a report that I think has been shared by email to all of you. So please check it when you have time and contact me if you have precise questions about it. And so because, as I said, it's a co-evolution project, the team had members from the University of Tokyo and Nihon University, as well as from the Office for Space Utilization Promotion of the Ministry of Education and Science. And you can see here that Professor Nakasuka was also a member of the team. So basically, what we wanted to look at this project is how do we evaluate the success of a space technology development and utilization capacity building program? What are the strengths and weaknesses of what the Japanese universities are doing? Typically in QTech, at the University of Tokyo, we are collaborating with a lot of developing countries. So is there a specific Japanese way of doing it? What can we learn from the experience of these Japanese universities? Comparing with other institutions around the world and trying, because it's a policy research, to make recommendations so the government can improve the support they give to the universities engaging in capacity building. It was a 2-year project that involved studying different projects where we could differentiate the donor side. So was the support a university, which is our starting point, but also spin-off, large corporation, and recipients that could be government agencies or universities. Typically, we can mention the Diwata 1 and 2 satellites, where the Philippines were working with 2 Japanese universities, Hokkaido and Tohoku University. And the recipient in the Philippines was at the same time the Department of Science and Technology, government, and a university, the University of the Philippines. And for that, we interviewed a lot of people participating in a lot of projects all around the world, in mostly Asia, Europe, and Central America. And we even had some field trip to Europe to meet a lot of capacity building providers. So as I said, we started with Japanese programs, with the Philippines, with Vietnam, with Rwanda, and all the BIRDS program with, which is kind of the best we can imagine, with a lot of countries and a very successful program. And we analyzed different aspects. What is the motivation of the donor university in Japan? Where did the laboratories that provided the service receive support from their headquarters at the university, support from the central government? Did they interact with the local private sector, etc.? We then looked at what kind of service, similar services provided in foreign countries, for example, in Italy, in the UK, in the Netherlands, in Korea. And we realized that in most of these countries, universities don't directly provide capacity building services, or at least not anymore, but they now do it through spin-off companies in order to increase the scale of their activities. We also had different elements of analysis with that. I'm sorry to rush, but I don't want to be over my time. After looking at the, let's say, geographical perspective, what is Japan doing? What are other developed countries doing in terms of capacity building? We had more thematic analysis, such as to what extent this support given to developing countries contribute to the diplomacy of the donor country, specifically in the case of Japan. To what extent the existing programs were effective in terms of education. And we looked a bit at the impact of the COVID-19, because capacity building involves a lot of hands-on activities that were heavily disrupted with this pandemic. I will not go over, I voluntarily made a heavy slide, so you can then, the slides will be shared. And so if you don't have time to read the whole report, at least you can refer to the slides. So we identified some strengths specific to universities, specific to Japanese universities, some benefits for Japanese universities to involve in capacity building, with our kind of central case study being the Kyushu Institute of Technology, that I would say, if we think about maybe 10 or 15 years ago, was probably less famous in the space field than some of its bigger counterparts in Japan. I would say in University of Tokyo, Tohoku University, Hokkaido. But thanks to the wonderful BIRDS program, now QTech is probably the most famous space university in Japan. So capacity building helps the recipient, but also can have very important benefit for the university that provides it. And then what I think is really the most important in our analysis, what is not perfect yet? What are the weaknesses of the services provided by Japanese universities? Be they structural weaknesses, some related to the lack of support from the government, or to the way the capacity building programs are conducted. And based on all these weaknesses, we derive needs that should be addressed. And to address those needs, we made a series of 4 recommendations to the Ministry of Education, so they can do something to help Japanese university do better capacity building with less worries about funding, about support for the partnerships, etc. And precisely how this recommendation address all the needs. So I'm already, I think, over my time, so I will wrap up. So in this report, you can find, I believe, an interesting overview of university-led space capacity building programs in Japan and abroad. We also try to draft as in a really practical way. You can find lessons. If you're a university donor, a private donor, or a recipient, how to benefit the most from this kind of program. We try to find good practices and lessons. And of course, policy recommendation targeted to Japan, but that can be applicable to many other countries. And we understand that we need to study more, cover more areas. We didn't cover Africa that much, Middle East. And the MEXT, understanding these two, kindly granted us a 2-year budget extension. So if you're interested in what we do, if you want to be interviewed, if you want to give input, lessons, maybe correct some of our mistakes in the report, please contact me. You have my email here. I hope my email could be shared by UNISEC in future emails. And please contact me, please read the report, and thank you for your attention.
All right, Quentin, thank you for this summary of your report. I didn't know you got a 2-year extension.
I didn't know it a week ago, so it's a fresh news.
I see. Okay. Well, then congratulations on the extension.
Thank you.
So we're approaching the end. As usual, the finest segment goes to Rei Kawashima. Rei, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So this is the okay. Okay, this time usually I will introduce the new members, then of course I will do that. But today we invited the 3 guests to announce their own events. All the events are quite related to our activities. So the first speaker is Emmeline. Emmeline. Okay, but Emmeline, can you unmute? Okay. Yes. So, oh, and maybe you should show your face. Can you say something?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you see me?
Okay. So
yes,
I will share the slides now. Let me do. Okay. Emily, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. Yeah, this is Emmeline Pat Dahlstrom. I am coming from New Zealand, from Space Base. I'm also an International Space University ambassador. So just wanted to basically announce an event that's coming up next month. So for the first time, ISU is doing an online executive space course that's focused for the Asia Pacific region. This is a 5-day course where basically it's also for professionals kind of like working in the space industry, but want to have a kind of like a more broader depth in this industry, and also for professionals that are not in the industry and looking for a pathway, for a career pathway into the industry as well. So it's going to be on the 17th to the 21st of May, and we're focusing this one on China Standard Time so that we could get participants from India all the way to New Zealand. And as you can see from the slide as well, basically there's going to be a program for fundamentals of the space sector, from space policy and law to mission design, but also workshops on space tourism, CubeSat design from UNISEC, and then also panel discussions on Asia Pacific activities, entrepreneurship and investments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Emmeline. So the deadline of application is the end of this month. So if you or your colleagues are interested in participating or asking questions, please contact Emmeline. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next speaker is Igor. Igor, are you here? Hello. Igor. Oh. I don't see Igor. So let me invite James first. James, are you here?
Yeah, hi. I don't know if you can put up my my one slide.
Okay, all right. I will show it.
So while you're finding out, it's just to announce we're doing the first IAA African SmallSat conference. It's the last few days of November, first day of December down in Stellenbosch, very near Cape Town. It'll be an in-person event. We're assuming travel will be okay by then. And there's main sessions focused on sustainable development, especially in the African continent. But in collaboration with that, we're doing a student mission competition along the lines that UNISEC have done in the past. Yeah, please, all the people involved, if you'd like to put in papers, there's a website. You can see the details down there below on www.iaa-africa2021.co.za. And the deadline is, I think, middle of August for entries and for other papers to the main program. So I hope to see you down in Cape Town. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I really hope that we can organize such a real the in-person competition and the event. At this moment, yeah, we are also trying to organize mission idea contest, And the final presentation is set in November 13th, but we are not very sure if we can organize it in as a real event. But let's keep optimistic. And Cape Town is a really nice place. So if I really want to go back again. And thank you very much for introduction. Your nice event. Thank you. Okay, so let me I don't see Igor, so maybe I will introduce this event. Okay, this is the space school, summer space school in the Samara in Russia. And each year, this is annual, the summer school. And I am not very sure if this year they can organize it, but at this moment, they are planning to organize it from August 30th to September 10th. So if you are interested in joining this summer school in Russia, please contact the summer university. Okay, so the next, I think I will show, let's see. So this month, we have no new local chapters. If your region or country or state or village want to organize your local chapter, please contact us. And the university member, National Formosa University and National Taiwan Ocean University. And currently we have 21 local chapters and 186 university members and 7 corporate members. And next virtual meeting is we will organize it May 15th, the next month, the same time. So sorry to American people, it's very early morning, and very sorry for Oceanian and Asian people, it's quite late evening. And the program has not been determined yet. So if you have anything you want to share, please contact me. And these meetings will take place on the third Saturday almost every month this year. Well, if we can organize a real conference, that things will be changed. But I am not very I'm standing in the safer side. Okay, so from next week, next Monday, the UN COPAS meeting will start. SCSC will start. And the UNISEC Global also join as a virtual participant. And they will make a statement and one technical presentation. And the end of this month, the IAEA Symposium on Small Satellites for Earth Observation will be held in virtual. And the mission idea contest abstract submission due is July 7th. And UN COPAS, the meeting will take place August 25th to September 3rd. And Summer Space International, International Summer Space School is, as I said, will be held. ISC in Dubai will be held in October. And Mix 7 final presentation is November 13th. And APL-SAF is Asia Pacific regional Asia Pacific the Space Agency Forum will be held in November 30th to December 3rd in Vietnam. Please let us know your event information if you have. So thank you very much, and we have 8 minutes left. So if anybody wants to say something or have some announcement, please say now. Just raise your hand. Okay.
Just a question, Kawashima-san. You just mentioned the APRSAF. So was it confirmed, the date, or is it still okay?
It's well, yeah, it's not confirmed. It will be confirmed in soon, I think, but not yet. Okay. So then we have 7 minutes to talk. So let's see.
Does anyone have any announcements?
If not, let's see. Maybe you can share your regional situation, Lawrence. Do you want to share about Canada?
Oh, well, I guess our biggest development right now is the high school CanSat competition that we're organizing. We've just recently managed to, now normally at the end of the competition, you will launch the satellites on small rockets. That hasn't been possible to organize, but we will have them being dropped out of a helicopter. So they will parachute down and collect their data, and we'll do that probably late May to complete our first national CanSat competition.
Okay, all right. So who else? Mara, do you want to say something? Mara, is there? No? Oh, Christian, is there?
Yes, Ray, I'm here.
Okay. You want to share your situation from Chile?
Let me, yes, here is my, well, we don't have any news from here. We are waiting for new projects. We are talking with other universities, but maybe I can share with all of you that I am getting involved in ACHIDE, is the Chilean Association for Space. That's kind of the acronym, and we are thinking in getting more involved with another South American countries in launching my idea which I presented in the International Astronautical Congress in Bremen in 2019 was about the low CanSats, CanSats with water rockets. It's very cheap, and it's a good idea to start an aerospace project with kids from between 15 and 18 years old at school, and maybe it's the previous necessary step before getting involved in a more complex project like the real chemical rocket with the CanSats. That's the news I have from here, from Chile.
Okay, thank you.
Kawashima-san, can I share something?
Yeah, sure.
About a conference. I will just share my screen for 1 second. So basically, for those of you who are interested in more space sustainability, space surveillance, there is every year in Hawaii a conference called AMOS, which has, for the last 3 years, some program called Emergen for young people who are interested in space sustainability and surveillance. And what happened, thanks to the COVID, something really positive happened, which was that in the past, this conference was mostly attended by rich American kids because you had to go to Hawaii and it was costing a fortune to attend it. But because now last year was online and this year will be hybrid, so everyone can attend basically. And compared to previous years, last year's 2/3 of the people were not American. We had people from South America, from Africa, from Asia, and it was super interesting, super good. So I would encourage you, those who are interested in space sustainability, surveillance, STM, SSA, to apply for that. And it's co-organized by the Space Generation Advisory Council. This was my announcement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I think I wanna ask Jorge to make some comments. Well, we invited him in 2017 to the real conference in Rome, UNIGLO global meeting, and yeah, we had a very good time. So usually after the conference, we have a very nice dinner or party or chatting, or drinking. But the one of the bad thing of the online meeting is we have nothing after that. So it's very, very sad. But still, I'm very glad to be able to connect to everybody. So, Jorge, are you there? Or you are...
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay. So can you, well, maybe you attended this online meeting for the first time. So I just want to get your feedback and your comments and how did you feel about that?
It was great. I like the breakout discussions. That was very interesting. I mean, the only thing that I felt during the breakout discussions is to have a little bit more time to discuss more, and I think that's a very good sign that all the people is very engaged, and that's really appreciated. And also this exchange of information that has happened at the end, it has been very interesting for me. I was taking notes, so. And also chatting with some of the speakers. I think I mean, the work that you are doing, right? It's amazing, and the work that UNISEC is doing, it's really great. We have been in touch through KiboCube Academy. You have been delivering lessons this year for JAXA in the context of KiboCube, and that has been very much welcome. I think that there is more need for more UNISEC. So the more you grow, I think the more the rest of the community will benefit. So thank you very much for the invitation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. No, it's already time. Okay, so we need to finish. Every time when I say goodbye, I feel very, very sad. But I'm glad because I know we can meet again next month. So, now I have to say goodbye to everybody, but let's meet again, and let's hope that we can meet again in person quite soon. Professor Nakasuka, do you have any comment? You are unmute. Can you unmute? We cannot.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. See you next month again.
Yeah.
Oh, Ray, quick comment, Ray.
Yes. Quick comment.
Yes. So this is for the audience. Please encourage your friends and colleagues to attend this monthly meeting. We could use many more participants. Right, Ray?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I think we recorded this meeting. So I think we can share if you miss or if your colleagues wants to watch, maybe you can introduce. And I really hope that we can continue be connecting with you. So thank you very much, and have a nice day or have a nice evening. And thank you. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you, goodbye.
You're going photo session, right?
Thank you.
We've
Yes,
done the photo.
presenters need to stay here. Yes.
Yes, presenters. But thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye. Thank you for the nice meeting. Thank you, Ree. Thank you, Mr. Maida.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you. See you next month.